My name is Crystal. I'm a social cultural anthropologist, but my background and my training was in anthropology and sociology and media and communication. But I operate primarily as a social cultural anthropologist. My research area generally looks at what young people do on the internet in relation to three things: celebrity culture, self curation and profiles, and also vulnerability. So, in relation to these things, I've looked at how young people use mobile phones and social media apps to help them with grief, especially when it's their very young friends who are passing away and they may need all these mediated devices to help them make sense of life and mortality. In terms of profiles, I've looked at how young people are building up all sorts of different portfolios for different aspects of their lives, sometimes for job searches, sometimes for family images. But for the most part, a lot of this research is in relation to romance. So, how young people are talking about and portraying their relationships and friendships on the internet. But I think most of the work that I'm most known for is on internet celebrity. Today, we may know of these people as influencers, but the scale is quite big. I look at anything from people who become memes to viral videos, to people who are viral on a social media app and then get taken on television to become mainstream celebrity, all the way down to your traditional influencers that are big on social media and who do this for a livelihood. I think the biggest difference now we can look at is between mainstream media and social media. So when we look at celebrities, they mostly operate from the mainstream media, although many of them today do have a strong presence on social media. But I designate them based on the origin of their fame. So if they started off as mainstream media artists, even if they have a big following on Instagram as sports persons, as singers and actors, I still consider them traditional celebrities who are also on social. This is very different from, say, organic people like you and I who are not public figures. We are not in the entertainment industry. We have portfolios on social media and natively on internet platforms, gain celebrity and publicity and build ourselves up there. Now, many of these people then may go on to star in movies, have book deals, become singers. But again, looking at the origin of their fame, because they started on the internet, the ways in which they relate to their audiences and package themselves still is different from the traditional celebrities who are on social media. So origin of fame is the one big defining factor, but that leads on to other smaller branches that we can talk about later. There are several angles I could go on this. I could talk about data breaches, trolling, harm to self. I could also talk about persona fragmentation. But one particular angle that's interesting to me, that's in a chapter on my influencers book, is the life cycle of privacy. I was able to come at this angle because I have looked at influencers since the late 2000s. At that time, there were a lot fewer of them. And at that time, not so many of them were as prolific, successful, or commercial. So having the privilege to watch them for almost a decade now, I can attach performances of privacy to different stages of their career. So in the cycle of privacy, if I were to simplify this, there are three stages. When you're in the early stage of your influencer career and you're trying to build an audience, build a community, get people to understand who you are, what your flavor is, how distinctive you are, then you have to put a lot of yourself out there. You have to be able to have a lot of self-disclosure, do a lot of these fan one-on-one interactions, even maybe be able to play with the taboo, play with ideas of the unseen, play with ideas of boundary making, to review things that other influencers may not have liked to talk about. In my studies, very classic examples of new influencers who want to capture your attention with privacy talk about their sex lives, talk about divorces, talk about breakups, they talk about grief and shame, because at that time when they were entering the industry, the norm was to be pristine, pretty, and perfect. So that allowed them to capture people's attention by pushing out, so-called releasing their privacy, but at the same time being very cognizant of the fact that there may be personal privacies they do keep And then there are these packages of staged privacies, staged authenticity that they don't mind commodifying for you to consume. In the mid stage, this is a push and pull. If you keep doing this, people are going to get bored because you put yourself completely out there. There is no sense of allure, mystique, or the game that I want to continuously go to your channel to check you out. This is why a lot of reality TV stars may be called very unfriendly and uncouth names like fame whores. People think they put too much of themselves out there. So on the stage, you have to do this weird little dance between putting yourself out there in some instances and then withholding information in others. A very example, again, from my case studies is when influencers, female influencers especially, start to get into new romantic relationships. It could be that instead of coming forward and then introducing their new partner to their fans, they may tease followers for weeks and weeks and months with ambiguous photos. Maybe of them photographed with a man, but then repeatedly photographed with a man, or maybe having matching accessories, or maybe holding hands, and then having followers query them and comment on their social media networks but not responding. But when they finally do give that big reveal, that is that dance where disclosure versus publicity brings you different types of value. At the very, very final stage, if you are a full-blown, great, super duper big influencer, you're very confident in your following, you're quite stable financially, it is now in your benefit to safeguard your privacy and reveal less of yourself. Because at this point, you will have a lot of viewers who are there just for your content. And then you have the people who have been following you for some time who still want to dig behind the scenes of your real life. In this section, withholding this information teases your audience. It gives them this flavor or this desire, this experience of the chase, that they have to cross-reference all your social media, try and go in informal forums, try and find gossip online to do detective CSI work and piece together all these missing pieces, just to squeeze a little bit of new information about your private lives. So at that stage, it is to your benefit if you completely withhold traditional privacy. And that was one of the most interesting things I managed to glean from a very longitudinal study of influencers and where they were in their careers.